see you guys in the dark.
This happened to me 2 to 3 years ago.
About 2 weeks ago, I booked an Airbnb in another country. I was going there for a concert. The room was cheap, so I knew I wasn't going to be in a five-star hotel, but I was only going to be there for one night, so I didn't mind as long as I had a bed to stay in. To start off, it already wasn't a great trip because my data roaming apparently didn't work in that country at all. I logged into a cafe Wi-Fi and planned my route in advance as best as I could. Managed to be at the house in time, rang the only bell, and then I waited. Nobody had came out. I repeatedly rang and waited for 5 minutes. I noticed the door had a slot for mail, and I looked right through it. I was shocked to see an entrance that looked like an abandoned barn. A super dusty couch right in front of the door. Pieces of furniture covered in cloth. Very dirty and extremely old. I usually love old houses, but this house did not look like it was in use at all. I wondered if I was at the wrong house, and what to do now. As a super old, unwashed looking guy walked towards the door from the street, I asked him if he knew where the Airbnb was. He mumbled something, which I interpreted as positive, so I asked him if he was Tim, who was my post. He said yes, and then opened up the door for me. The centerpiece inside the house was definitely the super old, creaky staircase that led to the upper part of the house. I followed him upstairs. The second floor was also abandoned looking, super dark, with clustered furniture hung with cloth and randomly thrown together, and a super creepy curtain that I couldn't catch a glimpse behind. Another stair up, and we were in my hallway, which was honestly the worst one. Cracks in the walls, old rural painting, and crosses hung up next to them. It seriously looked like the set of a horror movie. I usually don't have problems with decorations like that. I'm goth, so anything dark and inclined is my jam. But everything looked so badly taken care of, I just got major creepo vibes from this house. He had showed me the bathroom, which had a huge hole missing in the bathtub tiling and the wall. Everything looked super dirty. He showed me the bedroom, which was honestly okay. There was just a lot of creepy dolls on the shelves that threw me off, but the bed seemed pretty fine. I asked him if they had Wi-Fi. He told me no, which really sucked. I really hoped that they would, because that meant that I would have no way to communicate in there. I also asked him when the checkout was the next day. He said it really doesn't matter. All right. He then dragged himself up to the fourth floor, which was completely pitch black. It was really dark, so that gave me weird vibes. I definitely didn't want to go into the shower, so I just quickly changed and charged my phone. When I got to the bathroom, I realized that I didn't even notice the creepiest part. There were no locks on the doors. At all. Not for the bathroom, not for the toilet, and not for my room, which freaked me out. I also noticed there was also so many half-used items that someone had probably left, like shower gels, toothbrushes, and toothpaste. A random lash curler just lay abandoned on the shelf. Not like a here you go for your use in case you forget yours way. It just looked like someone had left it, and nobody bothered to clean it up. I had already made up my mind that I would definitely not stay there that night. My mind was already spinning scenarios. What if all these products were left by the people before me? And why did nobody have horrendous reviews? Because they got murdered? Maybe. I was super spooked. I seriously debated if I should take all my shit to the concert because it did not feel safe in the slightest. But my back was really hurting from the heavy backpack, so I had taken my essentials and left the room as soon as I could, not without sliding a folder paper under the door so I'd see if someone tried to open it in my absence. When I was coming down the staircase, I had heard someone turning a key in the front door. I was a bit confused, but in the ad it said that a couple had lived there, so I expected to see the wife, girlfriend of the guy that I had already met. Instead, a middle-aged man enters and says, "Hey, I'm Tim." All I could think of was, then who the hell was the other guy? I was honestly shitting myself by then, but I had a brief small talk with him and finally left the house. I was shook. Luckily, I made it in time to the venue, and the concert was worth it. Afterwards, I was so tired that I knew I couldn't stay awake for the whole night, so I checked into a hotel. That was also not perfectly clean, but at least they had Wi Fi, a proper shower, and a door that had a lock. The next day, I got thrown out at 10 a.m., so I made my way to get the rest of my stuff. I don't know why, but I checked the mail slot again and jumped back. The old guy was just snoring on the couch directly in front of the entrance door. I tried my best not to wake him up and sneak into my room to get my stuff. I noticed that the door hadn't been opened, thank God, and I finally left this godforsaken place. I don't know if I overreacted, but honestly, from the two Tims to the missing locks and the checkout that didn't matter, if I assumed the worst, this would have been the perfect setup to assault or murder somebody. Best case scenario, nothing would have happened, but I probably would have had a panic attack all night. Usually I love solo traveling, but this was just too much.
I refused, saying that I'd rather add him on Facebook.
I had gone to the police station a few days ago to put down a complaint about some person who had scammed me when I was trying to get a graphics card.
Got him sprayed
A
with
guy
bleach
who seemed
until
very nice overheard the conversation,
covered both eyes.
proposed me to come over as he had spare electronics equipment that he did not use anymore, saying that it could help someone else, that he would more than be glad to give it out. Now, I really didn't put any hope into it, and was unlikely that I'd find something interesting, but I took up the offer. He didn't have that fishy person aura, so I accepted coming over in a few days. But I wouldn't show up alone, though, just in case. A few days after, I go to the house with my brother. First, the guy is not wearing a mask, and he tries to handshake me. There's this old person in the background watching us with a beer in his hand. I can see from here that the yard is a complete mess. Things everywhere. He guides us inside. We take a look around, and then he starts pulling stuff out of a bag. It's like 15 to 20-year-old graphics cards that are completely worthless. So I told him it ain't gonna work. It's too old. He tells us to follow him to the garage, which is even more of a mess than the yard. Things lying everywhere. And there's a very dirty pool. Not even covered, though, as we were still in winter. He shows us one of those first generation graphics cards, old and bulky. I tell him it's not going to work either. He takes us to the shed behind the house with even more things. It's a shady place in a weird alley. I freaked out a little because the old person who hadn't had a single word said was following us now. He rumbles through his shed, telling me the card he intended to give me was somewhere, but he couldn't find it. Too bad. I prepare to go away, but then he asks me if I could look at a PC that doesn't boot anymore. I accepted, and I go inside the room, which is apparently the kid's room, and it is as messy as every other room. I approach the computer, and it's missing keys. It's kind of dirty everywhere. I sit down with my brother and start fiddling with the computer. The grandpa appears out of nowhere and sits behind my brother, which kind of freaks me out, especially by the way that he looks at us. I'm trying to fix the computer. The mother comes in and tells me she doesn't know anything about computers and such, but she goes on the dark web. She then asks me if I can check every device in the house to make sure that they haven't been pirated and that she's not being spied on. At this point, I look at my brother, confused. We kind of mentally communicate, yeah, we need to get out of here. It's starting to get really weird. I tell the guy that I can't seem to fix it and that it's above what I know, and he's okay with it. The old man lights up a cigarette in the room, and we get out of there. The guy decides to keep us there and talk for like 5 minutes. They seem like they wanted us to stay. We tell them we have a bus to catch and kind of walk quickly out of here. The mother stops us and asks if we're going to come back to check on their devices and make sure that they aren't pirated. And they just say that we'll contact them again. Panicked and blocked the number when I got out of there.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.